Good evening, fellow scribes and logophiles. It's that time again. Pour yourself a cup of coffee, put a log on the fire, and pull a chair up to the hearth for the latest virtual edition of Washington State University's Visiting Writer Series. Thank you for joining us this cold winter night for the 2025 Visiting Writer Series and in welcoming our first honored visiting writer, Said Shaiye, to Washington State University's Vancouver and beyond. My name is Charlie Smith. I'm a musician, photographer, and globe-trekking Navy veteran. I'm a writer who composes poetry, short fiction, and mysteries under the pen name Phoenix Quinn. Reading Said's works and interviews, I felt an immediate connection to him. We're kindred nomads, perpetually moving. We have threads of connections to my home state of Georgia, and then to Seattle, to autism, PTSD, and ADHD, and to a profound love of sci-fi. We've both seen war, but from different sides of the lens. We've both experienced life outside the US, both believers, and we both feel more childish at heart as we grow older. I'm joining you from inside the WSU Vancouver campus, visiting Writer Series classroom, and Said will be joining us via video link from his place. Before we bring out our admired guest, I would like to thank our partners at WSU Vancouver, the WSU Visiting Writer Series, the English Department, the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, and Native American Programs, Vancouver, the Common Reading Program, and our journal, Landscapes. Thank you for all the opportunities that you provide to our university students. I also want to thank our tech wizards, Rob Baker and Travis Greenwood. Without them, we would cease to exist here with you virtually. I would also like to thank Vancouver campus co-director Julian Ankning and Cameron Reed McGill, our Pullman-based Visiting Writer Series director, for the YouTube tech tonight. Thank you all, our esteemed audience, for making time to be with us here this evening. I will now read WSU's land acknowledgement. Tonight, I come to you from the homelands of the Cowlitz Indian tribe and all the people of the lower Columbia Valley here in Vancouver. Washington State University acknowledges that its locations statewide are on the homelands of Native peoples. The university expresses its deepest respect for and gratitude towards these original and current caretakers of the region. We also pledge that these relationships will consist of mutual trust, respect, and reciprocity. I also want to remind you all that land acknowledgements are just one step towards honoring Indigenous peoples' long presence on all U.S. land. To reaffirm our incoming WSU president, Dr. Cantwell's comments, together, we will define what it means to be a modern land grant. In this perilous time of anti-inclusiveness, diversity, adverse thinking, we must not only stand together as students, but rise as informed and enlightened thinkers against disinformation and targeted attacks on our erudition and freedom of speech. Thank you. Before we begin, a couple of housekeeping items. Although guests will not have the ability to show their faces on the YouTube live stream, you can, however, send messages to the author via the chat function. Please use the chat to engage and respond to questions you may have at the end of the Q&A, where you can ask your burning questions. So please have your questions ready. Our next event, hosted by WSU's Visiting Writer Series, is our virtual and in-person reading and Q&A with poet Tyree Day on Tuesday, March 4th at 6 p.m. in the Chinook Student Center, room 150 on the Pullman, Washington campus, and as always, virtually right here as well. If you're here for the Common Reading event, we will put the link in the chat toward the end of the reading, so also watch out for that. In a conversation with Said before tonight, he described a moment in his life where, while attending community college, he discovered writing could be fun. This resonated with me as I too found the joy of writing at community college. In a time where, as he puts it, words now more than ever have the power to keep us going. He found the best way for him, and could be for you too, is to write what you love. Now, please join us in welcoming the authentic, the remarkable, Said Shaiye. Said is an autistic and ADHD combined as AuHD Somali writer, photographer, and filmmaker in Minneapolis. He is a 2024 MacDowell Fellow and was awarded a 2024 Minnesota State Arts Education Grant to lead BIPOC Autistic Writing Workshop where members publish their own books at year's end. His debut book, Are You Borg Now?, was a 2022 Minnesota Book Award finalist in creative nonfiction and memoir. He has published poetry and prose in Indiana Review, Texas Review, Obsidian, Brittle Paper, Pithead Chapel, 580 Split, Entropy, Diagram, and elsewhere. He teaches writing at several community colleges in the Twin Cities, as well as with Unrestricted Interest, an organization dedicated to neurodivergent ways of being. Please put your virtual hands or snaps together for Said.
Hey, thank you so much, Charlie. Thank you for having me. Thank you to everybody at Washington State for having me. This is my first reading at my home state. I grew up in Seattle, so this is the first time since I became a writer that I've had a chance to read in Washington, even though I now live in Minneapolis. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I will start with a sample of some poetry from a manuscript in progress called Autistic American Terrorist, or alternately, African Fantastic Autistic Galactic. It starts with this picture I took when I was doing my MFA program, and this quote from Claudia Rankine's Don't Let Me Be Lonely. And so terrorists embody that state of beyond. They are that freedom embodied. They bring life to that deathly state of lawlessness, breath to breathlessness. They carry those whose lives they touch over into that breathless realm. Antigone, the character not to play, by Theban definition, was a domestic terrorist. Hegel uses her as an example. She identified with the dead, was willing to walk among them. In the course of the drama, even though she has many lines left to speak in the play, Crayon eloquently describes her to her sister as already dead. So it was already with Osama. How Claudia Rankin walked me through 9/11 in Afghanistan and why this country hates me. In 2003, this country was obsessed with Afghanistan, a patriotic fervor in the air which said, we must invade them and save them from the Taliban. I must have been 13. I am now 33. I hit refresh on my Apple News feed. Story after story talks in code. Islam represses women. Of course, those aren't the words they use. They say the Taliban will set women back 20 years now that they've taken over Afghanistan. We all know what they mean. How do I know? Because I'm an expert at reading Islamophobic code. It's etched into my joints from years of bending myself to seem less like a threat. There were whole years I didn't even mention my religion or its tenets. That kind of internal silence isn't good for the soul, like drinking rancid chicken soup with Americana on the label. Claudia Rankin wrote about all of this in my favorite book, Don't Let Me Be Lonely. I love that book so much I marked it up and down and wrote all through it. Then I gave it to a friend. Then I bought two replacement copies, one of which is still in its packaging. I don't ever want to lose that book because it will always remind me that I don't want to be lonely, even when I'm alone. I think about it now as I reflect on everything happening with Afghanistan, everything that has happened, that will happen, and I think of all the ways this country has destabilized parts of the world that are home to people like me, and how this country criminalizes people like me who only know of one home, this country. I think of all that as I hold my long blue book, Don't Let Me Be Lonely, across its front. I hold it and am comforted by the fact that I'll always find peace in this book, if nowhere else on this earth. I'll always find peace in Allah, if nowhere else, and He is always with me, and that comforts me even more than Claudia's words, because I know He created her and gifted me those words through her, and in so many ways I am comforted by the things I love, the concepts I love, the Lord I worship, all of whom are disserviced by my mortal attempts to praise them. But I praise Allah over and above anything they associate with Him, and I thank Him for everything. Yes, even this poem, even this poem, even this walk. Until the blisters on your feet bleed tears, walk. Until the tears in your blistered feet erupt. Spit, half-finished third verses at the moon. Stand in the city that made you. Find the entering place. A frantic rush. And then, Hoyo, Abe, Ulkega. This poem is called Madeskedimitid. Madeskedimitid in of Somali roughly translated means, why don't you just die? Or have you considered dying? This refusal to begin at the end, the whole premise is flawed. We sing with millions of mouths, these fuzzy chains, everything is slavery. When we say get low, down to the hold of the championship, down with the ship, down with the sickness, until you realize you are both audience and performance. There is no audience, everything is performance. Everything is a slavery. This nigga here, everything is a slavery. What does slavery do to the body? What does repetition do to the slaver? The descendants of the slaver, what then? What them? What do they do to heal the body of the repetition of the question is a flawed premise? The question is a statement. The body is a question. What does repetition do to the body of the questioned? On this stand here, Your Honor, I lie. I lay to lay with sleeping dogs, to lie with lime, borax, lie, to decompose a body in acid and lie, to deconstruct a question until you no longer question the why. Why did you die? Will you not die? Have you not died? Why is everything a slavery? The question is both the answer and the questioned, and the audience is waiting for the answer before the question. Everything is a lie, but to lie you must first lay, where sleeping dreams go to die, where the frozen hounds of hell no longer ask why the furnace has been turned off, and this is the worst winter yet, and yet we still don't feel cold. You still don't feel alive. And we all drown now. Realize now, you be gone. Threshold, hold, thresher maw. Do you grok black thought? This is a sermon of the unlearned. This is no message, just a sound which dies in the throat of those who mistake breath for life. To breathe is to die. To breathe in this land is to die. This land built on this lie is to die. The chains on your neck, back, arm, leg, arm, and a you don't stop. This lie is to die for. And this breath built on to die. My discredited. Why don't you just die? Die just why you don't. Don't you just want die? Want you, I just don't die. Haigudiman, don't you die in me. Don't you die on me. You don't me die want. I don't want you die. Have you seen my death? Death seen you have my. Where is your have death? Am I diamond senior my? Have you seen my death? I mean my death, not the death. هذا المشان كما هرين صاحب إلهي باتشرة إلهي باتشرة إلهي باتشرة. And I know God exists, to be forever God exists, for if he did not, رجو وحلة يراهدو wouldn't even know my name. Hope wouldn't even know my name. Hope isn't even my name. What even is your name? Magaaga sheg. Oh, I think yeah, the head. Hagalaga kene. Where did they find you? Who even are you, Adiga? Tell us your name. What is hope to a person with no name? Who do you think I am? You are, they think we could be. Simple. Everything is a slavery. Magacaygi makasaayi, magac muxuu yahay? Mar haddaad aakhiro u sii socotid, marna xaaraan ka dhex dabaalatid, marna shilin magacaaga lagu sheegin. Youngniga, geeridii baa dhow. Kole ilaahay baa jira, maaniga, ilaahay baa jira. Ilaahay meeshaan hanaga kaxeeyo. Tabar aan ku socdo, meel aan ka keeno, ilaahay baa yaqaan, ilaahay baa jira. Aakhirana ma foga, aakhirana ma foga. Aniga, ay nigga iyo aniga ama laba ragco salaatul shukr. Magacayga waa magacayga. And that goes for Omar or any other motherfucker on the street. Magacayga waa magacayga. My name is my name. Yes, sir. All right, moving right along. I'm gonna jump into a nonfiction piece. It's called Sneaker Uzi on the Island in My Army Jacket Lining. This is a piece that will be forthcoming in a good friend of mine, Stephen Dunn, who was also a visiting author here, along with Katie Jean Shinkle. They were promoting their book, Tannery Bay. I almost forgot. They were going to block me if I forgot their book name. Oh my God. Anyway, this is forthcoming in an anthology that Stephen is putting together, an anthology about Nas. Nas meant a lot to me throughout my life, even before I heard his music. And so this essay is about that. It also retraces a little bit of my story. Sneaker Uzi on the island in my army jacket lining. Decatur, Atlanta, Georgia, 95. You watch the first snowfalls off of Peach Grove down in Georgia, like Action Bronson said. You're new to the country. You don't have words. You watch Flintstones. They put you in ESL. You accidentally eat pork at school multiple times. Then you feed your entire family pork. By accident, of course. Watch the Disney movie. Dude ate pepperoni pizza. But baroni means bell pepper in Somali and in Italian. Ergo, those red meat looking dots are probably a different type of pepper. Get it to the grocery store. Skirt. Convince Hoya to buy a frozen pizza. Skirt. Back to the crib. Family on living room floor. Nas is on TV again. You always stop to stare at his face. Something about it looks so familiar. You have an uncle named Abdel Nasser. Nasser. Nasir. Nas. You open the pizza box. Hoya says it looks raw. Nonsense, you say. This is America. Everything is ready made. There are no lies told here. Abel looks perplexed. What are those red dots? It looks like meat. Are you sure this isn't pork? Nonsense. This is America. When something is pork, they label it as such. They only use one word for pork here, and that word is pork. Do you see pork written anywhere on this box? I can't read, they all say. Neither can I, but I do go to school, so you'll just have to trust me on this. Besides, why would the Disney Channel ever lie to a young African in America? Your entire family eats the cold, frozen pizza on the living room floor. Clint Eastwood is on the TV again. Hoya calls him cigar qori because his cigar looks like a qori, a stick. You chew and chew and chew through ice crystals and unmelted cheese. The bread hard as brick. Disney Channel. Your cousin comes in half an hour later. She's late for work. She sees the pizza box by the trash can. Allah, please tell me y'all didn't eat this. She can read. Uh-oh, this can't be good. Fast forward, everyone hates you now. You fed them pork. You may have sentenced your entire family to hell because of a Disney Channel movie about a kid on a deserted island who runs into a wish granting tree, so he wishes for a pizza tree. And now, for you, your family, hell, eternity. In reality, this act isn't a sin because you didn't know better. But you never cared about reality. You wish you could take a plane back to Africa, like Nas said. Nas is always saying something. If only you could understand what he meant. International Boulevard, Tukwila, Washington, 97. Biggie's on the radio with Puff Daddy. I think he just died. Biggie, not Puffy. Although we all know the world would have been a better place if they switched places. One was a rap legend, the other went on to be accused of multiple sexual assaults. Allegedly, of course. You see Nasir Jones all over the TV screen. You're in Tukwila at a cousin's house off International 99. You don't know it at the time, but the area is littered with crack houses, cheap motels, prostitutes, and gangbangers. The violent kind, not the porno kind, although porno is its own kind of violence. This is a desperate place, but poverty often breeds desperation. Desperation leads to violence, and you came from violence, so much violence. Is it any wonder you look away from it on TV? You still don't speak much English. You've been in America all of 2 years now. You're like 9 years old, little nigga. Quiet as a church mouse. I'm sorry, Muslim. Mosque mouse. You see images of Nas again. You notice how Somali he looks. Did I skip a page? No, I'm tripping. Oh, I did skip a page. Oh, wow. That can't be good. No, there we go. How Somali he looks. How Muslim his name. You can barely speak English, but you know meaning when you see it. White Center, unincorporated King County, Washington, 2003. Boys and Girls Club, Halo, Xbox. Running from that one chubby dude after a game of Halo went wrong and you talk too much shit, and all of a sudden you're running circles around the Boys and Girls Club as chubby dude whose name you can't remember tries to chase you down. You talk shit, but you don't fight, period. For one, you don't like pain. For two, Hoya said it was a bad thing. For three, you've always been a coward. For four, and you didn't know this back then, but you're autistic, which means you process everything slowly. You don't see that fist coming until after it's landed. You don't feel the pain until after the damage. You don't fight back because you need to know why things should be done before it is done, especially a thing like violence. You came from violence, so much violence. Why would you recreate it? Nas is on the radio again. I know I can't be what I want to be. You hear him in between class and football practice. Your jersey stinks. The team often bullies you. Violence, so much violence. What made you think football wasn't violent? You don't understand your place in the blackness spectrum well enough to listen to rap yet. You binge a lot of pop punk, Blink 182. You do this in secret because music isn't allowed in your home. Even though you see Hoya now be listening to Somali songs, you barely understand Somali now. Your friend asks if you think in English or Somali now. You can't remember ever having thought in Somali. Your first language erased to make way for this American language. The only Somali people you know are your family, and, well, those conversations never go anywhere. It's all, have you done your homework this? Have you memorized your Quran that? Always about what you should be doing, what you need to be better at. Never about you being good enough. These feelings stay with you. You never feel good enough, even as you write this. You wipe the tears away and remember that Allah loves you. Your family loves you, though you didn't always understand how they expressed their love for you. You grow up and learn that more than words are lost in translation, culture is lost between their generation and yours. All the while, you are both torn apart in this American hell. Nas is on TV again. Your head nod, what up? Near Frat Row, University of Washington, Washington, 2007. You're a drug dealer now, but you're not very good at it. You're not very good at anything except writing. But they don't just pay people to write. Get that head out the clouds. Cough. You struggle through chemistry classes, but find a home in the open mic poetry scene. Your parents want you to become some kind of wonderful doctor, engineer, lab coat, blah, blah. You never cared about anything but pleasing your parents, so you struggle to make them happy. You never consider your own happiness, your own dreams. You write your way through. You didn't know this back then, but you have ADHD on top of being autistic. You are sensitive to light, noise, social situations. You struggle to make sense of group dynamics. You can hear a pin drop just as loudly as a person screaming into your ear. Your undiagnosed, unmedicated ADHD makes it difficult to pay attention. The combination of autism and ADHD makes it hard to process what you hear. There is no filter for the sounds coming into your ears. Your understimulated ADHD brain is struggling to keep up with the thousands of external stimuli that your ultra-sensitive autistic brain takes in every second. How the fuck are you supposed to learn? You push yourself harder and harder. You study for 16 hours a day. Memorization is impossible. Numbers never made sense. You still count things out on your hands. Years later, you will learn you have dyscalculia, a learning disorder that affects a person's ability to understand number-based information and math. Your brain doesn't process math-related concepts like the brains of other people. Your brain processes everything differently, but you don't know any of this. You think the answer is harder work. You are smart in other ways. Look at that fucking vocabulary. So anything short of perfection has to be a personal failing. So much violence. The pressure soon begins to break you. You stop going to classes, stop taking care of yourself. The weed becomes your new home. It makes everything less immediate, wraps you in numb, slows down time. They put you on academic probation and refer you to the school shrink. You walk in there and take a screening test. The therapist looks at you. Black man, fat man, well paid. He says you are depressed. Oh shit, doc. He prescribes you a bunch of pills. He laughs when you say you came here for therapy, not pills. He says something about being $400,000 in debt and not worried about it. One day, you can be just like me. You wonder if there's a way to skip past life and jump straight to heaven. All this ordinary madness, plus forever feeling like a monster on campus, make you regret coming to UW. But it's not all doom and gloom. You're addicted to weed now. Devil on your back and he's got a chokehold. You never could fight, so you're losing badly. One thing about Tree though, it makes music sound better. So when that white boy from around the way invites you over, not because you're friends, but because he buys Tree from you, you're more than happy to come over. He buys your green, then smokes it with you. The whole reason you became a weed dealer was to smoke weed for free. You never cared about money. This philosophy would follow you all your life. Hang out at a friend's houses to eat American food because you were sick of that same old Somali spaghetti rice at the crib growing up. Started selling hard drugs in your 20s because it was the easiest way to get them for free. You never made money, and you maybe, likely, probably never will, but you always know how to get shit for free. Anyway, Nas is in your ears now. Illmatic. It's your first time hearing it. You're zooted off a 3-pack, back to back to back blunts. And the best part is you didn't pay a dime for it. White boy from around the way said a lot of racist shit on the low. You didn't even pick up on it. You've been in America 20 some years now, and you still don't pick up on shit. Remember now what you didn't know then. You're autistic. You rarely pick up on shit, especially when it's slick. You think his girl wanted to get at you. There was always weird tension there, but you never could tell when a girl was into you. Once again, autistic, we ain't picking up shit, gang. You are now high as heaven, and this nigga Nas is rapping his fucking ass off. Good grief. No wonder you've been seeing his picture on TV all these years. It was all because of this. Streets disciple, I rock beast that's mega trifle, sneaker Uzi on the island in my army jacket lining. Just as your understanding of English was circuitous in nature, it took forever and a day to learn AAVE. Grammar was always hard for you. The rules of white English and black English are very different. Further fucking more, the grammatical foundation for your English comes from Somali, a language you no longer speak. You speak sentences that sound like poems. People call you poet. You don't accept a title. You say, it's simply a reverse order of operations that my languages operate from. English goes subject, verb, object. Somali goes subject, object, verb. Example, the boy climbed a tree in English. Wil kaged kore in Somali. The boy, a tree he climbed. You, somewhere in between, the perpetual human bridge to never understanding. You often finish your English sentences with verbs instead of objects. Again, people call you poet, but you can't do form poetry. It involves boxes and rules. It involves numbers, counting syllables. Your brain doesn't work this way. One day you will find a way to be okay with it all. A cherry on top, living with multiple undiagnosed disabilities as you navigate the pain, blaming yourself for the shortcomings of every system which failed you, every misdiagnosis, every wrong prescription, every questioning stare as you beg release from psych holds. You walk off the UW campus one last time. You don't bother looking back. Nothing but tragedy and heartbreak. You remember getting arrested, showing up for court, caught with weed, labeled a criminal, being assumed one before you became one. A soft boy who thought he was hard until the world forced him to pretend to be hard. That fitted cap doesn't match your goofy smile. You're on the streets, but ain't never been a street dude. Marshmallow soft. How the hell did you survive a civil war? All that violence. You? Hank Hill said it best. Bobby might be all mush, and maybe you can't build mush up into anything solid, but you also can't break it down. The more you push, the more it gives. It's mush. You can't kill it. All right. I am losing my voice, so I'm gonna play you a video. This is a video poem. I stumbled on this when I was doing my fellowship at MacDowell this past summer. Um, Words didn't feel like enough. I'm into photography. It didn't feel like enough. I have a background in spoken word. It also didn't feel like enough. So I wanted to impress all these really accomplished artists from different disciplinary backgrounds. And I decided to just, yeah, combine them together. I hope that the sound is going to work. Can you hear the sound, everybody? Perfect.
And this is the most violent country in the history of violent countries. Yet you bemoan your former future president's bloody ear. White people are funny because they say things like Democrat and Republican. They don't say things like genocide. They say, we stand with Ukraine. They don't say free Palestine. They don't say genocide in Sudan. They say silly things like violence is not the answer, or farmer's market, yoga mats. They say silly things like support our troops who protect our freedom on that football field, as if our freedom is over there under their feet where oiled fields dream. We don't believe in violence unless that violence is done to non-white bodies. White people are funny. They put France flag overlays on Facebook profile pictures. And speaking of French flags, I was walking near a group of hijabis yesterday. They said we should go to France, but they would make us take off this hijab. One of them said, no, they would make you take off the hijab because we're over 18 and you're underage. Another sister said, the young sisters are forced to wear beanies and hats to avoid jail time in France. Now what kind of freedom is that? To force children to not practice their religion and have the nerve to call it freedom? Freedom is a silly thing, like white people, like Bosch coups, like January 6th, like school shooters on the evening news. Brah! ما تسكدي متد marka haddaan af Soomaali kuugu bedelo gabay ma noqon karaa aniga gabay ma noqon karaa haddaad fahmi kartid waxaan ka wado. Let me hear you say hey holler garay. Oh, that's not the real poem. Hold on, let me pull it up. This is the new poem. That's that old shit. Said Shaiye got the beat. Beat niggas. Cops kill young niggas. Write poems about cop killers who still play with their tonal toy soldiers. Brass shields. I'll tell you, class kills. Mockingbirds on sleep, the birds of which I dream. Rose concrete, the birds on wings of grief. Of winds I breathe, of winds I seize, the face of which blackness burps evidently. And they watched his body dangle to a jazz beat, as if dancing. Skit, 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 skit. Hi-hat, tom-tom, Uncle Tom-Tom, hanging from a Long John tree. Long John hanging from his thigh bone. See now, stuffed right under nose by eyelid, inside which his mouth limps. Play the chords arpeggio. Staccato touch with the tonsils slow. Make him say ouch, ouch, ouch. Now, the body twitch twirls on stage, almost like when a man hangs or was hung. Well hung. He's well hung. Leave him well done. Roasted, corpse, tarred, feathered. Mississippi River dripping, really come up missing. Migos flow, really come up missing. Twitch, twirl, hurl, apostrophe, beds, pubic curls, cubic neck, Wayne's World, girl. My discadimated girl. To be in bondage to a speculative human who sees you only as an animal, a phallus, a cuckold porn thread. To be in bondage to these people who are more monster and demon, chinni ama shaitan rather than bani adam. To be in bondage to these, this is the ultimate tragedy. Ma discadimatid. Ma discadimatid.
Thinking about the connection between rappers saying pop Somali and me hearing Somali, and how we are synonymous with violence, blood, shed, disaster, anger eruptions. Thinking about how my favorite people reference my favorite rappers who reference my favorite people in violent ways as punchlines or bullet points. Like Freddie Gibbs saying straight out of Mogadishu, or Nas saying some trifling hoes, I think they were Somalian, or Black Thought saying pull up on your block with Somali pirates. Thinking about how being a black Somali man in America is juxtaposed with stereotypes of black male violence in America, juxtaposed with ideas of Somali men are trash on my Twitter feed, and how we can't escape any of these, no matter how we say, do, or be. Thinking about black men clutching AK-47s in music videos, driving slow, tipping foes, dripped in rose gold tooth fronts, black of berry juice crust. And I remember the ubiquity of AK-47s back home, where it's easier to buy one than a decent meal, where most walk around with the K, unable to afford the bullets for said K, thinking about overdosing on Special K and Suboxone, falling into a K-hole, falling into a life hole, dropped by the long end of a snub-nosed, short-barrel, burly-stocked, collapsible back Andrei Kirilenko 47. Thinking about the advice I got at the airport in Hargeisa, you shouldn't wear your backpack too often in Somalia, black brother, because the marks they leave on your shoulders may be mistaken for the ones left by AK-47 shoulder straps. You wouldn't want to be called a terrority when you return to America. I didn't know how to tell them that was a foregone conclusion, and that I'd been called a terrorist in Africa just as many times as I did in America. Terrority, definition, noun, a terrority, a territory or body infested with radical terrorist threats. Black, Muslim, autistic immigrants especially, even if they've never been to Africa or were born in America and don't feel strongly about anything other than writing to blow themselves up, they probably blow themselves up in their writing, but that's not harming anyone, so we let it slide. Make sure that you give them a hard time at the airport every time.
I know niqabis that finish Lil B verses when I spit the first line. I know this world weren't meant to be dwelled in, but still I kick my feet back like marsupial. I know niggas walking free, but still losing hope like they locked up. I know it's only partially safe to drop my black man armor in Africa, 'cause even here I'm a suspect for different reasons, like Pusha T, coke pinky nails, sketch out my memoirs, clutch the pen like Parliament, and how only cokeheads know the filter can be used to pack soft white powder snort and then smoke your lit Parliament. Numb lips. I never understood the conspicuous nature of people in public places. My sole goal is to be as unnoticeable as possible. If I could, I'd slide myself into a second dimension, such that you only ever see me head on. From the side, I disappear, such that you would have no choice but to see me how I see the world, sideways, peripherally. My mentor calls me an Afrofuturist memoirist. I call myself blank. On some days it even makes sense, little Uzi Vert. My old therapist said, you don't trust women as a concept. My old therapist was a woman and a concept, so I didn't trust her or what she claimed I didn't trust, which is ironic because, I don't know, man, my spaceship is taking off and I can't afford to miss any more flights, terrestrial or extra. ASAP Rocky said, them boys don't dance, but we left them Harlem shaking. To be in bondage to these, this is the ultimate tragedy. ما تسكدمتي.
Okay, we are back. Mango mush. Some days I wake up feeling like rain has entered me intravenously. Mango strands turn to teeth or a mouth, and water pours out cup-sieved mango teeth. I can't tell if tears or rainwater clouds these cataracts. I can't tell if those cloud waters will grow crops of mango trees or drown me in salinity. Stop crying. In my mouth, the words turn to mango soup. I call it butternut squash stew. In my life, the words have kept me sane, kept me going, kept me from going, and still. In my words, the life of my rhymes falls out the palace windows. I see sunlight leaking from pores when the world threatens to close Thresher Maw. Between the world and me, there is only a fartan. On my darkest days, I find light. I go back to prayer. I go back to words. I let the mush-mouthed mangoes form strands, tendrils. Help me all together now. Coogee sweater now. I wrap myself in a shroud of mango puree and guava juice and currants in the back of a tan Volkswagen Vanagon stick shift edition. Me and my family on the floor of it, eating from the same styrofoam containers I call home, that I call Tupperware. As an adult, the same red spaghetti I loved as a child, drinking the same red juice. We call it Fimto. Keep me on my barado. Sometimes the words feel like mango strands in my veins. I see mango juice leaking when needles prick places hair once lived. My blood is orange like red meat, green chew, tuna fish, spaghetti sauce. My mango words force me thrive. Mango words keep me dreaming of sunnier days between here and there is no hope. There is no I. Here, stop writing. I wish in endless strings of words like mango stands, like mango strands. Let that mango man. I'm that mango man. And sometimes the words feel like mango mush in my mouth, as if I'm trying to fill a void in my writing by writing about nothing, by speaking about not writing. A part-time nonverbal autistic experience. If you ask what my biggest struggle is, I say emotional numbing, a lack of soup. Force feel not world is feel far much a dunya creep. Adunya doesn't require consent. She will take me all the same. In my mouth, the words stick together like mango strands, like soup. I say I learned how to write in Seattle, where suicide is glamorized as fall's rain. Does Seattle have a dying problem? The words don't do it justice. In my mouth, the words stick together like mango strands, like mulligatawny. In my old city, we are dying in coffee shops. The coffee beans taste like discarded mango pits, like dying mango trees. My tears string together like fungus from mango strands. Dried mango hands hold the world together on a mango stand. In my mouth, the words stick together like mango strands, like mush, like mango man. Oh, that one was in the video. Okay. This one is called a Fela Kuti story. Dancing over page like Ali in the fucking ring. My technical writing ability will distract you. Tell us a story. Pimp poetry, pennies. Fuck face, this brain dancing between disability, Somali, neurodivergence, masking and twerking to produce a passenger. Control is an illusion. Layering, hiding, deflecting. I was born deflecting. I was born to question. Only death is certain. I was born to write true, but for whom? But I promise you a story. So, Fela Kuti said, I want to tell you a story. He never tells you the story. Simply states, put your legs and arms together, open and close, throw your legs and arms away. He teaches you how to dance as you wait for a story which never unfolds, as if the dance can force you to feel a story. When words fail, dance, feel, open, story, close. When a honeybee discovers fresh pollen, it returns to the hive and says, Fela Kuti. The bee begins to dance thereafter, story, open. The hive watches, learns, patient, story, closed. The dance is not a dance, but a map of steps, a language hidden in rhythm, a map to glory, to pollen, to the meaning of feeling, a Fela Kuti feeling which words, countries, years cannot teach or convey, a story, hope, close. Now here we stand before you like the first of some brand new fucking species, quoting Kuti like Proust, stealing lines from Alfie Solomon's, words lurching over you like a Goliath of unspeakable dimensions, claiming to tell you a story. We just want you to feel what it's like to be born into a war, how surviving is sometimes a worse fate than death. No, story, clothes, legs, arms away. Perhaps I'm not the right man to tell you this story. Too sensitive. Perhaps I care more about myself than the entertainment. Perhaps I just don't care. In the psych ward, we used to say, I don't care about being alive. Why would I care about you? Open, story, fella, be, cootie, dance, close. I wish I could tell you this story, could open myself, but the gates of trauma remain closed, a dam, a Sisyphean boulder. The levees just before Katrina made landfall. Sometimes we erect walls around ourselves, hoping to keep the world at bay or to keep the pain within. Sometimes we care so much about others that we can't let that pain out, as if the pain is Katrina, or the heart is a levee, or the story is taking place, taking shelter in a football stadium, praying this isn't the last place we see before eternal destiny. I still want to tell you a story, though. It has no happy endings, no known beginnings. It is a love story which grew by the shadow under which nothing can grow. It is not supposed to be possible, yet here it stands, here I stand, open close to you, having grown in a place that speaks a tongue which punctuates every phrase with death. We escape the war, the grave awaits, stack that bread, accrue, hope for a final payoff in the world beyond. Don't die even when you feel not alive. In a map to the door of no return, Dion Brand quotes from circa 1492. The money that financed Columbus's voyage to the Americas came from a tax which Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabella of Castile obtained from the church for waging a just and holy war against the Moorish kingdom of Granada and Islam as a whole. Granada surrendered on January 2nd, 1492. Columbus set sail in April 1492. In my retelling of past suicide attempts, I still blame myself. A friend asked me recently, what kind of Muslim are you with all this suicide talk? Taking your life is against Islam. I told her, I'm a Muslim who's trying not to die. But if I had a time machine, I'd tell her, I'm a black Muslim in America. It's a miracle more of us don't want to die. I still chastise myself for the harms of white supremacy committed against my body corporal, my body spiritual. I still blame myself for the pain that others bring me. I guess that's how I was raised, to always smile, even when I mean to cry, especially when I mean to cry. Oh, there's one last one. Whoops. All right, last one in this packet. 886V445. Within the space of constructed book, I smile and breathe ease. Oh yeah, Alhamdulillah. There is no wrong way here. There is only here. You were loved more than me is easier to accept than neither of us is loved the way we should have been. Our people only want to be entertained by a burning ship. They don't care if people are burning on that ship. At times I forget, and then I remember, and then I slow down, and then I simmer, and now I'm here, staring at clock, 1:39 a.m. Before my people became businessmen and refugees, I don't know which is worse. We were poets. We were poets and then we became this. Our ancestors must be crying in our graves. I now cry for heritage, for the poems which have no writer life mate, too busy trying to assimilate, while our children die rich, empty deaths in this country of cold, degraded excess. Hold me close to your chest. Burn this memory until you forget. Hey, how are we doing on time? All right, about time for Q&A. Cool. I will stop it there. Actually, I'm gonna share one last video. Quick little 5-minute joint. Yeah, I'll close it out with this video. This is a poem I recorded or I shared with a program called Art and Medicine. It's on Twin Cities PBS. This episode specifically was talking about disability, art, and culture. So, you know, that's kind of like my niche or whatever. Heaven is all goodbyes, but I hope it's soft. Softness of skin, softness of thought. Call me soft and I'll send you a heart. Won't do fisticuffs, just brisket cuts. When people call me soft, I found I'd be ashamed. Now I call myself soft to rebuke that disdain. Autistic,
sensitive to everything. Autistic, we don't speak the same. Autistic, in every poem I sing. Autistic, in every song I cry, using tears to wipe ink smudge from my pants cuffs. Drowning in words, living for life. Heard and once told that life is wasted on the living, and death isn't something we should dwell on. All I know for certain is life exists on the fence between hope and hopelessness. It's like a seesaw, being autistic, swinging from joy to a meltdown. Sensory overwhelm, need something soft to calm me down. The good Lord blessed me with soft skin, so I caressed myself for comforting. My masseuse, 20 years in the game, once said I had the softest skin she'd ever felt. Like velvet, like felt. I took the compliment, but deep down, I knew autism was to thank. Autism and Allah. One of the primary features of EDS, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, is velvet soft skin. EDS is associated with ASD. I hate how white people attach syndrome or disorder to everything they don't understand, and I hate how negative connotations are attached to those attachments, which perhaps explains the negative connotations I attach to my same self, Said Shaiye name. What's the shorter word for connotation? How about, bro, pass me the cream cheese on a light. Pass me the hookah and a Sprite. Pass me fatty food and bring to stomach great delight. Better yet, pass me a prescription for my ADHD so I don't have to self-medicate just to get through life. And if you can spare it, pass me that peace of mind. Right behind two lost lovers stuck between time and the metronome which hangs over us all, ticking, talking, clicking, clocking. Bombs over Baghdad, bombs over Bay Double, bombs over Kiev, bombs over Kurdish Peshmerga. Young, ever a learner, never have I clutched a burner. That's a lie. But I was born in the land where AKs are cheaper than grains of sand, and sand is all we understand. The sun is all we have, the blackness of our skin protecting us from it. White people colonized Africa, but 400 years after the Dutch erected limp castles on our land, their descendants' skin still peels off in the sun. They can't even protect skin from sun, yet we're the inferior ones. Anyway, none of that matters anyway. I just pray I get to see heaven one day. Wish heaven on earth for all my people. Wish heaven was easier to get into. But as the prophet, peace be upon him, once said, the road to heaven is paved with hardship, the road to hell paved with ease. So if this life is any testament, heaven just may be in our future. At least we hope. And hope is all I have these days, when nights turn to day, turn to nights again. When the blood moon serenades my waking dreams. When Larry Levis's ghost writes living poems in Fresno, Modesto, San Diego. Takes the form of dirt devils, sand tornadoes, uses wind to carve poems about nothing into still more nothing. Migrant farmers step over stillborn poems as they pluck fruit destined to be tossed from suburban fridges. I got cousins back home who've never seen strawberries or fridges. I don't know what that means, but I should probably cherish something, at least while I still can. Lord knows they could be on their way. Shoot, I think they knocking on my door right now. No knock raid. Ain't that how the last brother got tased? I mean shot. Shoot, I mistook their guns for tasers. Ain't that what they said about the brother they killed before him? He was shot. A 9mm Glock taser. This is Minnesota, bro. All we export is frigid ice and police lies. Murder too, though. We export a lot of murder here. Shoot. Am I next? Wonder what lie they'll export about my murder, about my death. I pray I'm not next. And every one of my brothers prays he's not next. In a country that values our bodies only in death, where we know every traffic stop could be our death. In a land of never quite making rent. This place is hell. But is that such a bad thing? Hell is hard, and hardship leads to heaven. And heaven is all we have to keep us going. Heaven is all goodbyes, but I hope it's soft. I hope heaven is softer than this life. And I hope I see you on the other side.
This program was produced in collaboration.
Center for the Art of Medicine at the University of.
All right, and that's that. Oh, that's all for me. I'm ready for Q&A. Sorry.
Thank you for sharing your art and your soul's work with us, Said. That was amazing.
All right, thank you.
I was very happy that I heard Mango Mush. You know, it inspired me. That's one. And of course your memoir. I was so glad in this class that we're taking now that we were able to read that. It was just like a light that came on that having the opportunity to read that. You have a way with your words that takes the reader into a scene with you and embeds them into the conversation, whether for better or worse. Like in Kodak Black Man Reads Poetry. That one made me think about my place in the social world the most. Made me, it sat me back down in my chair. It was tough. Um, Also, though, I was inspired by the conversation you had with our class last week. When you were talking about trauma theory and writing, you said you wrote when it hurt more not to write about it. This is similar to how I've had to deal with my own PTSD and personal trauma with writing, first with music, then words being the only answer. You're writing in Are You Borg Now, which I have my copy here. I'm so proud of that. Um, has helped inspire me to stop doubting myself and write for the love of writing. Thank you for being here and inspiring this writer, as well as many more watching from home and coffee shops and classrooms across the land now and for as long as this video is up. Uh, I'm going to start the Q&A off with a personal question to you, Said, that you have until the end of the Q&A to answer. If you could describe your life in 7 words, what would they be? And I'll come back to you at the end to get your answer for that.
All right.
All right. Now onto the YouTube gallery. The first question is, you mention music frequently in your writing. Can you talk about the influence of music on your life and writing?
Yeah, man. Music is it's kind of like everything for me. It's I think part of it is because as I was talking about one of the poems, I grew up in a really conservative family and culture. And so music wasn't really allowed. So to the point where I had to sneak to take a intro to piano class in ninth grade and then hide the report card that quarter so that my parents didn't see it. Because, you know what I mean, it was forbidden. I never really learned how to play piano because I had a hard time, learning sheet music and all the math and all the memorization, but I did find out that I really enjoy playing piano by ear, which is something I still do to this day. In fact, the first video that I showed, the video poem, the 10-minute one, all the music in the background, that's music that I played and recorded and messed around with when I was doing my fellowship. So it's a big part of like I couldn't imagine a day without music. And lyrics, pop culture, a lot of that stuff just drops into my head randomly, and it comes out in my writing, but I also just repeat stuff in my room. It's called echolalia. I just be saying stuff out loud. A random Lil Wayne lyric from 2008 will pop into my head and I'll just finish the entire verse right there for no reason. So it's a big part of it. Makes my day better. Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. As a musician, I fully get that. And Nas, I'm much older than you, so I'm Nas is not my he's not my bag, but his dad, Oludara, Neighborhoods was
Yeah.
my jam.
Okay.
I really loved it. All right, so moving on. Second question. Anger, fear, and hope sometimes go hand in hand. I hear anger. Do you think fear and hope sometimes fuel your writing when you're speaking of history and beliefs?
God damn.
I
That's
know, right?
these supposed to be softball questions. What's going on here? All right. I'm a bundle of nerves. I recently learned from my therapist that both autism Actually, all three, autism, ADHD, and PTSD are considered anxiety disorders. And I was like, so I got three times the anxiety? That's some bullshit. But fear is a big part of my life. But hope also is. Autistic people generally feel things more than others. We are extremely soft-hearted people. We feel the pain of this world as well as the joy of it 100 million thousand times more than you could ever imagine. And it's funny because some of the theories about autistic people that were written by not autistic people say that we don't have the capability to feel, or that we lack empathy, when, if anything, our disability is defined by an abundance of empathy. The main character in Claudia, not Claudia, Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower series, um, one of her faults is that she has a taboo um, issue in that time and place, in that she feels things too much and that she cares about other people's pain, and that is seen as a weakness, and which is very true for our life today. But I say all that to say, definitely my writing is most definitely emotion based because I'm an extremely emotional person. I've never cared too much about writing theory or the technical aspects of it. Those are things that I guess I've developed over the years, the more I've done it. I'm more concerned with how I feel when I write. I always start with emotion, and the strongest writing that I produce comes from the strongest emotions. And I don't write those things intending to share them when I first write. A lot of the time, it is like I'm having a meltdown or something crazy happened, and I'm just in a place where I don't have words, and the words come out through my fingertips via emotion. Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. So I know you're, like we talked earlier, you're a big Star Trek fan. So, emotions, we learned was the biggest one was the Vulcans. Do you kind of equate yourself with the Vulcans more?
No, I think I envied the Vulcans, in that, the Vulcans by nature, they are an extremely emotional species, but they've developed a way to temper those emotions, and they worship at the altar of logic. And so other species, when they meet them, they think, who are these cold-hearted Vulcans? But when they go through the Ponfar, which is their mating ritual, their mating cycle that happens like once every 10 years for them, their body, their control over their emotions, man, I'm such a nerd. Their control over their emotions completely falls apart, and they become these wildly emotional people that have no logic whatsoever. And so we learned that the Vulcans have needed to institute this system of logic, and suppressing of emotion to be able to function, because they are extremely emotional creatures. And so I think I envied their control of their emotionality. I didn't envy their suppressing of it, because I would never want to feel as much. I would never not want to feel as much as I do. Sometimes it really fucking sucks. Sometimes it's really bad and it's really painful. But sometimes, like, the level of joy and happiness that I get when something is really perfect, I can't put it into words. So I would never want to give that up. You know what I mean?
I agree. Thank you. I wanted to kind of give you a softball after that last one.
Appreciate it. You saw me
Yes,
go on
sir.
my. I mean, talk about the Pod Far and Commander Tuvok. Let's go.
All right, this is from Elisa Silva. Can you talk about your experience with teaching? And if you think your writing has been influenced by teaching, what advice do you give to your students about writing?
I I don't know how much. Well, actually, so yeah, I've been teaching. I haven't taught as much creative writing as I've wanted to since I graduated. I've just been teaching mostly composition, first year writing, and occasionally I get to teach creative writing classes. But how I pay the bills is mostly through composition, and I absolutely hate composition. I hated taking it. I hated teaching it initially. But in it's like when you've been doing something for so long, you don't think about the mechanics, the basic levels of it. It's like with sports. If you've been playing a sport or playing music for so long, you don't think about the first steps when you're first getting started out. So it was really difficult for me to slow down and think about that stuff, to try to explain things at a basic level, to people who might not be interested in writing or who were. But then the more I did it, the more it helped me actually like relearn the basics, the things that like I practiced them and I knew them, of course, but like it helped me pay attention more to the details. But as far as how teaching and writing, they do kind of go hand in hand. I hear that all the time. What advice I give my students, like I had really difficult, painful experiences in writing courses, in writing workshops, in academia in general, both as a student, as a teacher, especially grad school, completely broke me down. But what I learned, what I took away from those experiences, that pain, I used it to inform my teaching approach, and that my main goal is to never harm any student that comes into my class. For that reason, even if I'm teaching a creative writing class, I don't ever do workshop because I literally do not believe in it. I think it is baloney. I think it's a waste of people's times. I think it really just teaches people bad habits of trying to write towards the ear, the preference of whoever happens to be reading their work. And we don't need more of that in this world. We need more originality. We need people to just be themselves, and not to silence parts of themselves in hope of appeasing whoever happens to be your audience. That's stupid to me and a waste of time because we're all going to die. So why bother? But I definitely experienced a lot of ableism both before my diagnoses and afterwards. Navigating the disability system within higher ed is extremely grueling. It doesn't make sense. So I use a combination of trauma-informed teaching, compassionate pedagogy, and universal design for learning, UDL. When I design my classes, basically, I just assume that every single one of my students has an undiagnosed disability, or something that they're not aware of, or some type of trauma that they're bringing into the class, and that their ability to turn in an assignment on time, or finish an assignment does not dictate their worth as a person or as a student. And so I set up everything to be super low stakes. I don't penalize late work. I do labor-based contract grading. If you turn something in, I'm going to give you full credit. I don't care if it's 30% of what the assignment guidelines were. All I want for you to do is try, and to try it what your best looks like. Only you know that, So I really just try to create a space where people can focus more on the process and less on the outcomes, because I don't give a shit about outcomes. I care that you try and that you're learning. And most of the time, when I learn things that I really find out that I care about, it's in a low stakes way and there's no real scary outcomes. And then if we're focusing on that, then we don't have to worry so much about, oh my God, I already have anxiety about writing, but now I have to get this assignment perfect. Otherwise, my grade is going to be bad and I'm going to fail. I'm going to drop out. I'm going to become a drug addict like Said. But we don't need that. So I just focus on creating as much as I can. Of course, I'm human. I make mistakes, but like just creating a safe environment, where students have the curiosity to learn and the ability to mess around and fail. Because no matter what you do, if you show up, even if it's an online class, if you just do the bare minimum, you're literally passing my class with an A. And I'm going to hopefully help you find that you enjoy writing. And I've discovered that it's happened a million times. And a lot of students have discovered undiagnosed disabilities while they were in my class because of my approach. I'm not crediting myself for it. I'm crediting all the people who came up with these like really innovative approaches to teaching. But a creative writing workshop is not conducive to that. You're sitting there with strangers who don't know you, judging your work and telling you all the things that are wrong with you. I'm going to go have an emotional breakdown after this. What do you mean? How could I ever be inspired in that method? So it's something I feel really strongly about. Sorry to go off on a tangent, but yeah.
No, I appreciate that. I'm sure everybody else did too. I completely agree. Creative workshops can be hard on people from some different backgrounds, like you and myself. Like I was completely there with you. All right. The next one is from Karjat Yusuf. You talked about thinking in languages, feelings around the fact that you no longer know Somali as you do English, and the struggles of learning AAVE, yet recognize music and dance as encoded language. How do these truths shape your Afro-speculative futuristic practice? For instance, perhaps you might actively practice thinking in not English.
Yeah, so that was that piece that I read that talked about that was a really old piece. I now speak Somali again. Very well. I can write it, I can read it. I went back home to Somalia in 2012. I lived there for 3 years. So I was born in Somalia, but I came here when I was like 7, so I forgot it. But then when I went back, through practice and just everyday conversations, because not a lot of people speak English down there, like it just came flooding back. And so when I came back to the States, I actually learned it so damn well, relearned it so well that I became a medical and legal interpreter for like 3 years, which I didn't enjoy doing. I left, but anyway, so it came back, but before it did come back, I had a lot of identity crises related to the language and the lack of knowing it. And I thought that if I just go back home, I'm gonna find pieces of myself that were left there. I kind of did, but I kind of didn't. And I thought that relearning the language would help me, but then it helped me realize how mean people can be in multiple languages. So it wasn't all that. The question that I'm getting distracted from answering, I think my body mind definitely trends towards rhythm. Music, I feel it intrinsically deeply emotionally. But parts of me are not. I think if I was born with a better ability to memorize and do math, I think I would have probably been a musician. But you know, it, it's like language has always made sense to me. Words have always made sense to me. We lived in Kenya for 4 years after we fled the war in Somalia. I don't remember now, but I do have dreams sometimes of when we used to live there. And I remember talking to people in Swahili, but I also forgot Swahili. So I've been able to learn languages. Words, I think for me, is my math. I think it's my gift. It's something that has made understanding the world easier, but also I've always felt so misunderstood that I had like a deep desire to really be accurate in my use of language so that people can understand me. But because I'm autistic, all that did is make them understand me less for some weird reason. So I think there's things that I can do and things that I can't, and just accepting that about myself, and leaning into the things that I'm good at that I can do, the things that come naturally to me, and not focusing so much on the things that I have to think about. Going more with instinct is, I think, my home base and what informs my arts.
All right, looks like we have time for one more question. Um, so this is from Strawberry. Have you noticed a change in the flow and rhythm of your writing between before and after your ADHD diagnosis? Has that knowledge and understanding yourself helped guide you to finding your patterns?
Mm, yeah, starting medication for my ADHD definitely had a profound impact on my approach to writing. I found that I suddenly could do the things that were always hard for me, as far as the stuff that requires a lot of careful editing, a lot of boring things. But it also like made it harder to write because I used to write from a place of limited energy, and just overdosing on coffee at the coffee shop and just writing for hours and then falling apart for 4 days. But then having consistent energy made it difficult to write in that way. And I found it was a little bit harder to tap into the creative side. So learning to navigate that was interesting. I think getting all of these diagnoses, so it's been almost, I would say about 3 years since I got diagnosed, just over 3 years. And my understanding of each has taken time because, I'm 37 now. I was about 33 when I got diagnosed, 33, 34. And you can't just wash away 33 years of life and just be like, okay, now I have a new understanding of myself. Let me start over. It takes time to recontextualize your understanding of your selfhood, with these new definitions. And it's been a process, but one that I'm grateful for. And along the journey, I've accidentally helped a ton of other people find their diagnoses, and I've been connected more with people like myself. And it's made it easier to find community outside of writing because writers can be terrible people, and if all your friends are writers, you're gonna be miserable. But yeah, I don't know if there's a good answer for that question. The knowledge and understanding of myself in these new lenses, I think has shaped my writing because it's shaped how I see myself, and my writing is just an extension of that.
That's amazing. Thank you. All right, that does it for our audience questions. So back to our opening question. What seven words did you come up with that would describe your life?
I did it twice. Do you want 7 individual words or do you want a sentence?
Sentence would be great, or 7 individual words, however you see it.
It has been beautiful, but also painful.
Thank you. I really appreciate everything, Said. It's
Sure, thank
been it's been an honor.
Thank you so
Um,
much. The honor is mine. I appreciate like how how much you engage with my work. Like people don't know those tracks. You were calling out some deep cuts, and I'm like, what? So thank you for that. Thank you for your care and your approach to hosting this and all and everything really. It means a lot.
Yes, sir. It means a lot that you showed up for us. Thank you. Now I'll hand it over to Vancouver director Julian Acne to close out the event. Thank you, Said.
Thank you.
Himatis Katiyao. A huge thank you again for your words and stories, Said. Anyone need was Julian Ankney. My name is Julian Ankney in Was Nimipu, or as the colonizers like to call us, Nez Perce. Oh, oh. I want to give you a huge, huge humacus shout out to our English 499 student and Navy veteran, Charlie Smith. You did amazing. You both really did amazing. And I want to say, remember, when we tell our stories, we are expressing ourselves and our experiential knowledge as a way to inform thinking and in various ways create a connection to each other, to our ancestors, and to our communities. Story work values BIPOC narratives, and when we share our stories, we draw from a shared history as our community's ongoing struggle to transform a world through story, through service, and through reciprocity to our communities. And remember, using our heritage language is rebellion. Thank you, everyone, our esteemed audience, for being with us here tonight in community and solidarity. I'll leave you with a quote from the recipient of the 2018 Pulitzer Prize for Music and the 2025 5-time Grammy winner, Mr. Kendrick Lamar. They not like us. Thank you.